for it to remain mostly cloudy. There may be the possibility of the odd shower later, particularly as we go into the afternoon, and the wind will more or less stay the same. Temperatures pretty much to stay as they are, so that's 14 degrees Celsius, 57 degrees Fahrenheit. The ship has now been cleared by the local officials, and you may now proceed ashore at your leisure. The gangways this morning are located on the starboard side of Gala Deck, that's deck number 4, and the starboard side of Plaza Deck, deck number 5. Finally, ladies and gents, just like to remind you that all aboard time for this afternoon will be at 4:30, so all aboard for 4:30 this afternoon, please. Grand Princess will then sail shortly afterwards for the Azores and Ponta Delgada. Ladies and gents, I hope you have a great stay with us here in Lisbon.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I hope you're ready for a walking tour to discover Lisbon. So notice Nelson is our driver. He's going to take us to the starting point. And Nelson is going to drop us in the oldest section of Lisbon in Alfama district. We are in Alcântara. Alcântara used to be countryside. Later in the 19th century became the industrial area, because the first industries were located here, not far from the ocean. Notice that the ocean is not that far from here, so the advantage was to receive products for the factories. And notice you can see several ferry boats crossing the river from here. Notice that the number of population living on the south bank is very big, is an area where we have... And you can see the red tram. These are the oldest trams of the tram company. They exist since 115 years. They're very charming. The only problem is that they have no air conditioning, they have no heating system, but is a different way of discovering Lisbon. Notice that we are already getting very close to one of the main squares of Lisbon, the Commerce Square. But before getting there, you will see a small square on the left-hand side with a classic building, a white classic building. Start already to see right in front of us on the left-hand side. That building is the City Hall of Lisbon. So it was here in 1910 that the Republic was proclaimed in Portugal. Notice that Portugal was a monarchy. And notice that the Commerce Square is the square where we used to have the Royal Palace. The Royal Palace was located here on the right-hand side of the square. But the Royal Palace that was built in the 16th century was completely destroyed in 1755 by a big earthquake. So this area that we have here and that we will cross afterwards from here, from the river to Rocio Square, look through the left-hand side. We have this arch with the main pedestrian street. So we will do this on our walking tour. I noticed that crossing this area that was destroyed, we get to the area that survived the earthquake. That is the oldest section of Lisbon. And the oldest section of Lisbon is called Alfama, an area that still keeps the medieval structure. Notice we are outside, we are in the main road where there are cars. We will walk inside, so in an area where only people that live in the area or people that live... So notice, if you have any doubt how we spell the name Alfama, look there. C-A-L-F-A-M-A. All the names started that the Arabs had arrived in 711. So they had a long time that dominated the area that today is Portugal. And of course lots of cultural words and even, irrigation system, agriculture, were used by and Alfama, as I said before, means water fountain, so water springs. And normally, we don't have a population living without water. That is vital
have in the dryer, but outside. So hanging and taking advantage of the sun. So we will walk a little bit, so pay attention to the little details. Hardly. We have several periods where we have really very complex battles. We have periods that we have to have weddings between the royal family, the Spanish royal family.
Brittany there, and then I have an unfolded my grandmother, like she's 85 or 85, and she has
So notice, do you remember we saw that decoration that I pointed you out? That in June is not just that street, it's the whole district here is decorated with those colorful ribbons. And why? Because it was in the area that Saint Anthony was born. I don't know if you heard of Saint Anthony. Saint Anthony of Padua normally is known as Padua because it's the place where he died and where he's buried. But Saint Anthony was born in Lisbon. So for us, it's St. Anthony of Lisbon. And in June, we always make the big celebration in the city in honor to St. Anthony. So this area, the area where we was born, is all decorated. Points of degradation, they cannot afford to do the reconstruction. So what happens is exactly that is the city hall that interferes, and you know how it is, public money is never enough. So what we are going to do, we are going to have apartments, and the new people, the population that lives here is quite old, so they don't have a car, they don't have the mobility to get out of the city to the big supermarkets that are located or in the limit of the city or even outside. So they buy their shopping every day or every 2 days in the local places. They don't have, a lot of choices of the same product. Inside the building. So mainly, bakery shops with wheat fields or with things that associated, with the activity of the crafts that was inside. So it was a kind of a publicity. Instead of having the name and saying we do this and that, orange trees, sour orange trees. They were introduced by the Arabs, and you know why? Because of the smell. Because these trees, when they are blooming, these and the lemon trees, they have a very sweet smell. So that's why we have a lot of orange trees in gardens, mixed with the other type of vegetation. And why they are here in the Alfama? Because it's the oldest section, but also because we get into the Lisbon Cathedral. And the Lisbon Cathedral was built on the site of the mosque. St. Anthony was born on the site where is now the St. Anthony Church. So the church is after the earthquake. This celebration that we still have in June was a way that the population found to raise money, to rebuild the Church of St. Anthony. Because Lisbon has two patron saints. The official one, that is St. Vincent, that was chosen by the church in the 12th century, that we got the relics here in the church, because notice when you have the relics. chapel, the Baptist chapel, is right next to the entrance. You see, so one very famous person was baptized here, Saint Anthony. Saint Anthony that lived just across the street, so it was not like all the other children of the area. You know, when they were later, when they had made their reformation, they could be baptized here. Notice that there is an Our Lady that is not a traditional type of representation of Our Lady and the Child. Normally, you don't even have the lady looking at the child. You know, Our Lady sometimes just holds the baby, then looking towards where it's sculpture being painted. But here is already changing. Notice that here, Our Lady and the Child are touching each other.
Ah, ok. Eu não disse. Então, eu vou pegar a lista. Então, quantas funções? Eles estão lá em 32. Qual é?
With the flower, so it's a fruit that came from Asia. We have two there, a fig tree, and this one is what we call the silk tree from Asia. And notice that we have a big variety of vegetation because of the Portuguese sailors. You know, sailors from Lisbon left to Africa, to Asia, to Brazil, and they started to bring different type of vegetation to see if it will adapt to the Portuguese climate. And we used to have a mild climate. We don't know anymore what type of climate. Well, we can cross because the bus since 1925, the national nobody seats. Even if there is a light, people wait here. But they have this part of the time, you know, currency in exhibition on the table. But it was summer that they had a lot of rain. We didn't. So our last winter was the driest in the last 70 years. We had the end is an elevator. An elevator that was built by a student of Eiffel in 1902 and worked with steam because there was no electricity at that time. Still today it works, but most of the time now it's people that want just to go up and down to see the view. But we will pass it again, but from here we are a little bit further away, we see it better. So we cross. There are two streets that we have to cross because they are...
Now this is Rosehill Square, R-O-S-S-I-O, or Peter IV Square. Peter IV is a king represented in the middle of this square, and he was the first liberal king here in Portugal, opposite to his brother that was an absolutist. And he was also the first emperor of Brazil, as he gave the independence to Brazil back in 1826.
From here we can see down at the castle. On your eyes, and all this area was very alive because people that were on transit trying to get away from Europe, they didn't have a home here, didn't have internet school, so they spent their time here because we have this obelisk. This is a monument to the Portuguese that restored the independence of Portugal from Spain. You see, we were 60 years ruled by Spanish kings, and in 1640 we decided that's enough. We want to be back independent, and that's why we have different dates written there, because Spain did not accept to lose Portugal easily. So we have a period of 28 years of battles between Spain and Portugal. 1880. I think it was 1880, right? But it's inside. Inside is written. So older than the elevator. It's too heavy. We need to push. And you see the graffiti? This is one of the problems I told you we have in Lisbon. Now they're doing that. And for instance, now when we will go up at the end of the line is very short, but it's very steepy. On the left-hand side, you will see there are panels.
Trust you.
I don't know if I trust her.
It's like San Francisco.
living in the interior of the country, coming to Lisbon could be an opportunity to find a work. You see, so it was a period of opportunities. So people started to settle here. Notice that this is 16th century. It's no longer a medieval period, no longer a period that we are concerned about invasions. So no more need for a labyrinth. You see, so we start to have straight lines. We have a square right there. So where the district ends, and from the particular area, so from the top down there, we have all these marked to the end of the 16th century. It's a very curious area. During the day, the address is exactly to avoid at night to have these streets invaded by cars. I know this is a population that is aged. We might need an ambulance. We might need a fire car, because if a fire starts here, you need to start right from the beginning. And the big problem was that they couldn't move at night. If you read there is written Largo means square of Chiado. Chiado, it was a poet represented here, a poet from the 16th century, a satiric poet. You can see by the look of his face that he's having fun. And he was not the only one that used to come to this area. This area, the Chiado area, was the intellectual area of Lisbon in the 19th century, also the cosmopolitan area. I noticed that the poet that also has the table in the other coffee shops. Here we have a statue of him.
Yeah.
Agora deixa eu ver se eu sneak on our drive.
So this is where we are going to start our tram ride. Here at Estrela Star, with the Star Basilica here on your right hand side. Basilica from the 18th century, first Catholic church to be built after the big earthquake of 1755 and consecrated to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Our trams are located here to the right hand side, these two yellow trams. And after the tram ride we will come once again to this coach and cover the rest of the tour on the coach, because the panoramic through the city center and all of that has to be done here.
Boa tarde. Boa tarde. Well, my name is Sandra. I'm going to accompany you for the next hour or something, because we never know how long it will take, right? It's a tram. So some little things might happen on the way, we never know. Right? You're not in a hurry, right? I mean, we should come around 1 hour and 15 minutes more or less, okay? Because it's a working day, it's raining, there might be a bit of traffic. Well, in the left with us is a very nice lady named Anna. It's very nice outfit. And our driver is also a lady. Her name is Fatima. So you know something good is about to come, not only to drink but also to eat. And if you have never been to Lisbon, I can assure you have never tasted what you will eat on the tram. If you have been to Lisbon, you probably have tasted. It's a custard pastry. It's very good with icing sugar and cinnamon because of the spices and the spice trade. So a very long old tradition. So to your right, this used to be the palace of the king. Then it had to be rebuilt this way. So the king was the gentleman on horseback that you cannot see because of the restoration works. So it's all over the statue over that because of the restoration works. But that's the statue of King Joseph I. Now to the left, you will see the main street, the arch. In the main street in downtown Lisbon, it's all pedestrian. I mean, not so nice today because it's raining, but it's usually crowded and I mean, it's the center of the city. And so that's how they No, otherwise it would be impossible because of the river. Now tell me, ladies and gentlemen, do you like the pastries? Yes. Okay, Victory Square. To the left, the statue of the King, John the First. Maybe if I say John the First, it says nothing to you. But if I say that he was the father of Prince Henry the Navigator, everybody knows him, right? So, starting with the Portuguese princess, the Queen, Catherine. Okay. In front of the road used to be a two-way street. So imagine trams going down, trams going up. I mean, it was a mess. It was a very La Fenice of Italy, Venice. So there is a season, the opera season, and you know some operas you can also attend on a Sunday afternoon, and you'll pay like 10 euros. But there is a condition to pay 10 euros and not 100, let's say. You should bring a child. So there are many cultures. So you can see here that you want It's very beautiful. In most of the cases, we can attend, we can hear what they say. We don't participate in the votations, of course, but we can go inside and we can listen to them. If there is something that has to do with religion, for instance, all religions may be covered in parliament because our state is Islamic. So there is a separation between the state and religion. One thing has nothing to do with another since 1910. So if there is a law that has to abortion, for instance,
Of Saint Jerome, that was a very popular religious order in Portugal and Spain in the 16th century. This worked as a monastery up to 1834. Nowadays it's still a Catholic church, but the long part of the building that was destroyed with the earthquake of 1755 and only totally rebuilt in the late 19th century, nowadays houses the Archaeological Museum and the Maritime Museum instead of having the bedrooms of the monks. This was built as an interpretation of the original building. The original parts of this monastery are the area where we have the church and the cloisters, and they are built in Manueline style. Manueline style being a style from the reign of King Manuel I, so late 15th century, beginning of the 16th century. A style that is very much connected to the discoveries. Also here to your right hand side you have a fortress, and in front of the fortress a monument to pay an homage to all the soldiers that fought and died on the colonial war. On the names of the walls behind the monument you can read the name of the Portuguese soldiers that died on that war. The colonial war was fought in the colonies in Africa, Guerra do Ultramar we say in Portuguese, because the colonies in Africa wanted their independence, but the dictator did not want to give that independence. Here at the Belém Tower, we have our final stop before getting back to the pier is here just in front of us. The monument to the discoveries, inaugurated in 1960 to celebrate the 500 years of the death of Prince Henry the Navigator. That was not a navigator, but gave a lot of money for the discoveries. He also created the School of Navigation in the south part of Portugal, in the Algarve. That monument there was inaugurated in 1960, and it has 33 statues. It is shaped like the front part of a caravel. On the very top we have Henry the Navigator holding a caravel. That was the main means of transportation using during those journeys of the discoveries. And then we have 32 more statues. Only one woman is represented, Philippa of Lancaster, the mother of Henry the Navigator, and the other 31 statues are of important people somehow connected to the discoveries. Mathematicians, cartographers, geographers, writers, poets, painters, kings. The main navigators are also represented there, like for instance Pedro Alves Cabral, that made the official discovery of Brazil, Vasco da Gama, that discovered the seaway to India. I do hope you have enjoyed this tour this afternoon, despite the liquid sunshine we experienced during part of our tour, mainly when we wanted to stop at the park. And I wish you all the best. Have the rest of a very pleasant cruise, and don't forget to come back because we are here waiting for you. Thank you very much for your company this afternoon.
Seven sheep that have strayed from the flock. So we've got 7 people outstanding at the moment, and we're just trying to get an account of them. So we will be a few minutes until we depart. However, once we have accounted for them, we will then let go our lines and be on our way. Once we do get away, it's quite a scenic sail out. It takes around about 40 minutes or so. Of course, on the port side, you've got the Cristo Rey there, which is the Christ statue that was inspired by the one that oversees or overlooks the Bay of Rio in Rio de Janeiro. And then we'll be passing straight out under the suspension bridge there, which is of course the 25th of April bridge, and then continuing down through the channel and disembarking our pilot off Belém Tower, and of course you'll then get a good view on the starboard side of the Monument to Discoveries, celebrating Henry the Navigator's exploration in the New World. Once we dropped off the pilots, then we'll be, as I say, continuing down the channel, and once we get out into the open ocean, we'll then be setting a more or less due westerly course, and that'll take us all the way to the Azores. So meantime, ladies and gents, I do hope you enjoy the sail away with us.